What if I showed you 5 different Victorian homes? One with a tower, another that looks like a medieval castle, one that looked like it came straight out of Italy, and another that proves Victorian homes don't have to be so flashy. Each one of them tells a different story in California's history, because the Victorian style isn't one architectural style, it's actually a collection of styles that became popular during Queen Victoria's ruling. Welcome back to a series where we explore the history of Victorian homes. I'm Moises Palomo, a Southern California realtor, and today we're going to be exploring the most prominent Victorian home styles built in California and how each one of them reflected a different chapter in the state's history. Let's start off with a style that most people already recognize, the Queen Anne Victorian style. Now, Queen Anne, ironically, Queen Anne herself lived nearly 200 years before this style was actually created. Architects drew inspiration from several earlier English and European styles, and they mixed them together instead of following one single architectural tradition. This is the Victorian style most people picture, with its towers, wraparound porches, bay windows, colorful paint, and intricate woodwork everywhere you go. Now, during California's economic growth in the 1880s, advances in woodworking and California's abundant redwood made these elaborate details easier and less expensive to be produced. Today, we can still find these homes in California, including the Painted Ladies in San Francisco, the Carson Mansion in Eureka, and historic neighborhoods in cities like Pasadena and Los Angeles. Now, let's talk about what stole the spotlight before Queen Anne. Queen Anne stole the spotlight, but before that, there was the Italianate style. Now, Italianate. Rather than copying one specific house in Italy, architects were inspired by villas and farmhouses of Renaissance Italy, adapting it into one American style that looked refined and sophisticated. That inspiration gave these homes their distinctive look. They had tall, narrow windows, low-pitched roofs, a wide roof eaves supported by decorative brackets, and they often have a square tower called a belvedere. Today, you'll still find Italianate homes in gold rush communities like Nevada City and Grass Valley, as well as historic districts in San Francisco and Sacramento. For many people in California, Italianate was one of the state's first widely popular Victorian home styles. And right around that time, another style was gaining a lot of attention. In contrast to looking in Italy, architects looked somewhere else. And we're talking about now the Gothic Revival style. Architects look back to the great medieval churches and castles of Europe, hoping to capture a dramatic and romantic appearance. That inspiration created homes with steeply pitched roofs, pointed arch windows, decorative verge boards, and tall, narrow shapes that you see throughout these homes. Now, in California, builders had plenty of timber and skilled carpenters, but not the stone to recreate these homes. So instead of building massive stone homes, they recreated these Gothic styles and details almost entirely in wood. The result of this was known as Carpenter Gothic. Today, you'll find Carpenter Gothic homes in historic towns throughout Northern California, including Nevada City and other gold rush communities. And as the Victorian era continued, craftsmanship became part of the home style itself. So let's talk about the stick East Lake style. Rather than drawing inspiration from European history, the stick style emphasized the home's wood frame itself. Instead of emphasizing towers and dramatic shape, these homes highlighted decorative woodwork, exposing patterns that suggested the home's underlying structure. Came with this were Eastlake-inspired ornaments, carved brackets, spindles, detailed porch decoration. California builders embraced the style during the peak period of new woodwork machines coming out, and they paired this with the state's redwood. We love redwood. Today you can see the homes in San Francisco's older neighborhoods, Eureka, Alameda, and Victorian districts throughout Northern California. However, Victorian architecture wasn't just for the wealthy, and we're going to be talking about this throughout the history and throughout these videos. So let's talk about the Folk Victorian style. As railroads expanded across California, decorative wood trim could be shipped almost everywhere, all over California. Instead of building elaborate Victorian mansions, some families just simply added factory-made decorative trim to traditional house forms. These homes usually featured a straightforward and symmetrical floor plan that was pretty standard, but Folk Victorians also include decorative porches, turn posts, spindle work, other ornamental trim that's added on there. These homes and these details are what create the Folk Victorian style. Today they're common in Central Valley, farming towns, former railroad communities, gold rush towns, and other Northern California cities. They prove that even modest houses could reflect the beautiful Victorian era. So next time you see an old Victorian home in California, don't just call it Victorian. Maybe you could look at it closely. You might be looking at a Queen Anne Victorian, an Italianate style, be like a Gothic revival, Gothic carpenter, stick Eastlake style, stick style, Folk Victorian, and maybe just another Victorian style. So many Victorian styles that we still haven't covered yet. It'd be cool if you could look into them if you ever see a home on the street, watching a show, a movie, in a book. Now, each one of these styles we talked about, they tell a different story about California and Victorian architecture and how it evolved over time. Thank you for watching this episode where we talked about the prominent styles of Victorian homes in California. I'm Moises Palomo, a Southern California realtor. I love the history of homes and be happy to help you if you're looking to buy or sell a Victorian home. And if you'd like to learn more about buying or selling a historic home in Southern California, feel free to send me a text. You could also click the link in my description to tell me more about your situation. Afterwards, we could set up a time to chat and review your options. And if you would like to watch me dive deeper and talk more about the history of homes and everything Victorian, check out my other videos or stay tuned for my next one. Boom!